So some bad news, just finished recording and then went to go edit and then realized that like after like 5 minutes of it, my camera just turned off, and no longer recorded. So that is a little bit unfortunate. Basically, I'm not going to go through and do the entire discussion and everything again because I'm not in the mood to do all that. But all that stuff in the audio is still there. So basically this video, there's no reaction. It's just going to be a discussion. So if you're interested in that, I'm sorry if you want to see the reaction. It's not there and there's nothing I can really do about it. So I'm probably just going to put full screen the actual video, like the anime itself. And then you'll just hear my voice in the background as I kind of talk about the different scenes and stuff. And that's probably going to be the whole video. So for all of you interested in the discussion, there you go. For all of you interested in the reaction, I apologize. And hopefully we'll be back next week for that. But yeah, I don't know if it's me not wanting to jump the gun too early, but I don't know if I can get the read I want initially on Lakin. I don't think I can, because I don't want to jump too early and just be like he's evil, everything he's doing here, like he has these hidden intentions for like whatever his own purposes are, right? I don't know, somebody of a higher position of him, so everybody seems to kind of respect him or look up to him or view him in this sort of way. Why he would need to go out of his way and do these things to uncover this stuff like for his own sort of benefit in some sort of way doesn't add up to me, which makes me not want to initially just be like he's evil, he's trying to do these things, he's trying to do something and has it out for Mao Mao or has it out for Jinshi in this sort of way. I don't like it, just doesn't sit right. Like when I think about that, to me it just seems wrong, but at the same time we haven't been given anything about that dude that would make me think otherwise. So I think he's like a lot of like theorizing and guessing on him is going to have to come later. Like I'm going to have to see how things unfold a little bit more, and the more that we get introduced to him. I will say the introduction of his character and finally putting him on screen here and like introducing him in some sort of way is done really well, in the way that we're left to feel a little bit mysterious, because we're left to see somebody who seems to be, at least his intelligence and just the way that he kind of goes and approaches things seems to be much higher than everybody else that we've encountered so far. Hence, I guess, his position and everything. But it makes you really intrigued into him as a character and the way that they plan to involve him in the story, whether he is going to be heavily involved or just involved within maybe the rest of the season or this arc specifically. And through the little glimpses we got, specifically the girl that he was talking about and us seeing, what she looks like, and it's very strong resemblance to what we'd assume would be the mother or some sort of relative at the minimum of Mao Mao's family here. We're assuming he's going to be of relevance and very much importance going forward, at least throughout the entirety of the season. So I don't know. I don't want to jump it too quick. I will jump it too quick and say he is a piece of shit. Completely is. Because I don't think you can paint, him wanting to force himself upon someone and ruin value and doing all that stuff in a positive light. Like, you just can't. There's nothing to do. So we don't fuck with him just strictly off of those things that he ended up saying and the thoughts and stuff that he was having. And the only thing that I would counter argue that with is, I guess, under the idea of wanting to lower someone's value, similar to, what was it, episode like 3 or something, when they did whatever to lower the girl's value so that they're able to kind of just get rid of her in some sort of way and allow her to actually go back with the person that she wants to be with. That would make sense. But the way he presented it and talked about it here does not make that seem like it's the case. So we won't really kind of stick up for him or try and justify his actions, or the, not even actions, but I guess his words and his own thoughts. And we'll just kind of leave him a little bit settled at that. They did talk a little bit later on about some things. I think Jinchi went into detail about him, and I'll look at that as we're skimming back through the episode, because I didn't pick up on it, and I don't know if there's going to be any relevance to like him being in his 40s, and I think they explained like some other stuff about him that I didn't maybe pick up on or can't really remember right now, so I do want to recheck that. The rest of the episode, the first half, makes me feel a little weird. I don't dislike it. Like, it's still fun and enjoyable, a lot of mystery and everything. And while it's painfully obvious from the beginning kind of the direction I think that they're going to head, it just makes me wonder, is there any significance going forward with it? Or is it just to kind of fill the gap of time a little bit before we get into the next one? which is kind of just where I'm left at because it feels a little bit out of place. But if it's used as a way for more Jinshi Mao Mao moments, but also just her kind of getting involved with poisons and, you know, explaining a little bit more about the world and the way that people are kind of scheming and doing things, I guess it works in a way. It just feels a little bit odd, especially for the length that they kind of went at it as well. It just feels a little bit odd. So I do wonder what relevance and importance they do have going forward. Because we do start off and we do mention that this has also happened 10 years ago at a different merchant's house and with somebody else. So is the relevance of the person who specifically, as we find out later, ends up selling off the information or just giving us the information that we end up getting it from because he just like stumbled into somebody and on a coincidence he was like told by somebody about this, right? And this exact thing kind of played out. History repeated itself in a way. Where are we headed with that lines of thought specifically? Is it just to mention that it can't be a mere coincidence because it's happened multiple times now? Or is it supposed to be the person who we are getting information from in these situations is somebody who's being set up and his name's kind of like being passed around in some sort of way? Is this higher up person that we do need to be cautious of going forward that has this extra knowledge and information and stuff that is causing other people to be killed and poisoned in certain ways? And we need to paint a lot of attention towards that. While that feels like it was almost skimmed over in the sort of way that makes it not feel like it's actually too relevant, but at the same time, I don't know. That's the, I think, thing that stuck out the most to me is that we didn't go into that, but we do mention that it's happened before. And I just wonder if that person that we're getting it from specifically has any sort of relevance here, or if it was just mere coincidence, but it is just the fact that this is common knowledge or from other people, at least, that this is a thing that occurs and that can occur and that we can use this as ways to kind of kill people. Should just leave us a little bit cautious. I don't necessarily know. We do explore the case a lot more though, and we figure out a whole bunch of stuff about the pufferfish and fish and stuff. It's really straightforward. There's not too much I really even want to talk about with that. And the Mau Mau faces here are fucking insane, especially her being caught off guard and everything by Jinshi. It's also really funny here her talking about only being interested or wanting to like be in conversations and stuff with things that she's interested in, and that's why she's like so interested in them and actually talking to these other people, right? But in this situation, Jinshi's like, you always cut me off mid-sentence, you know, and of course she cuts him off once again because she's not interested at all in the things that he has to say. And I like how at the beginning here, before we get to the end where he starts talking about how he has so much work to do, we see that he's doing like absolutely nothing and it's just him putting it off, and that's probably why he has so much, because he literally sits around and is completely lazy and lets so much of it build up, but also because he just wants to be around her and bug her so much that it causes all of that stuff to actually happen. We made this other guy here who is kind of the guy that we're going to be following here. I don't know if he's going to have any relevance or importance going forward, but it is nice to see that we'd have more other people involved. End up finding out the brother here immediately coming in and having issue with us snooping through and trying to figure out things. Of course, he immediately seems like he's completely suspicious at that point. My inner thoughts at the time was like, maybe he's not, just because it's like almost a little too obvious in a way, right? So you're almost painting it a little bit too obvious, so you immediately have to think like it goes to a complete different way. But I don't know, we explore it a little bit more, and then we end up finding out that she sneaks this out, of course, and she ends up testing it later on for us, figuring out that it needs to be soaked in some sort of water or whatever, and that information probably wasn't passed out, or it was passed down, but that guy specifically omitted that because of course he doesn't want to actually have Buddy to be fucking alive here, and he's trying to kill off his brother in this sort of situation. And I love Mau Mau just eating the poison, of course, and being like, I'm probably gonna be okay, I'm good if not, and then forcing her to kind of throw it up, and end up kind of explaining how the whole situation goes. They all turn around her trying to eat it again. It's great. Big reveal, brother basically tried to kill him and everything. It's pretty obvious where they were going with that. This too, of her being so stuck in her own world and figuring out what she wants to do here. The face and just the reaction that she gets and what she says when she turns around and it's just Jinshi. Bro was stunned for like a full 5 seconds too. Just did absolutely not move. Completely beat up after banging his head against the wall, which I think is great. And then this is where we start going into him. This is where like the real juicy stuff, I guess, for the episode specifically comes in. So let me see exactly what he says. So he's a high-ranking official in the military, which immediately scares off Mau Mau. I wonder if it's because he's high ranking and he's asking jobs and these things of us. Probably not. If it is because she actually has knowledge in these things, specifically of who we're assuming is her mom that we get introduced to later through him, of kind of meeting with this person or knowing of this person who's of intelligence or has been warned by other people at some other point. I don't know specifically. But I wonder if that's what immediately sends a shock to her. She does have other moments throughout the past few episodes where when the military's mentioned, she does like repeat it or think to herself for a little bit. So it makes me think she is well aware of this guy, or at least somebody involved that she should be a little bit cautious of. He's within a good family. Through the past 40 years, he hasn't married. We later find out that's because he's so attached to this one person. He shows no romantic interest for the most part, so he's not really been interested. Doesn't also want to be involved in a bidding war with somebody else in some sort of situation. Also finding out that the person that he's talking about would never actually sell herself in any sort of way. So it was a little bit more difficult, I guess, within his situation, but it explains his lack of being married and all of that. He adopted his nephew as his son, and he has him handle his household. So his nephew, who I'm just going to assume we haven't necessarily got introduced to in any sort of way yet, because there's nobody within that other house or anything that we've been introduced to, and there's nobody. The only guys that I can think of is just the one that we met this episode, and then the other guy who we kind of went back with, allowed us to go back home, are the only other two that we've really been introduced to in any sort of way. So it could be one of them, but it also could just be completely irrelevant stuff, and it's just, or it could be things to come and just kind of keep an eye on. I'm not certain, but I don't think that holds much relevance right now either. And then he's also only interested in Go Shogi and rumors, and is completely on Jinshi as of recent, especially, causing Jinshi to have concerns for like what exactly is to come, or why he's like kind of out for him. I think the more like I think about that, he's not necessarily out for him in any sort of way. It's just the fascination and interest that he got at the beginning of the episode about finding out information about this person who Jinshi's kind of involved with. So maybe he does have it out and he's trying to do that, but he also, maybe he's just completely interested in this person because it's somebody who could kind of rival this person that he kind of loved at some other point throughout his life. So he's taking up like lots of interest in them and trying to figure out exactly if him and Jinshi are similar in some sort of way, and even if not, just find out more about this person as Mao Mao, and maybe learn a little bit more, see how, I guess, similar they are to the person that he once loved in some sort of way, which I think he'll end up finding out a lot more than he wanted to. But I think that that's the kind of the thing. She also like really reflects on it and thinks about it for a second before she's just like, let's just forget about that, and kind of just bypasses it as if it's nothing, which makes me curious by that, I guess. So she seems to know some stuff that more than we do, at least, in these situations here. We end up figuring out there's somebody from the house before, of course, that he showed interest in, and then we get the little hint before, when we see this picture, you'd assume that it is Mao Mao. It looks like at least dressed up, clothing and accessories, the little that we can see in a similar sort of way to the way that they kind of left Mao Mao off in. Same exact hairstyle, same exact way that they kind of have the hair bunched up and like pulled over her shoulder like this, like when Mao Mao's whenever she's like doing one of the scenes where she's taking a bath or whatever, and they have her kind of touching her hair and doing that, and then I'm assuming similar lady to when Mao Mao went upstairs within the household and she was kind of just sitting there and looking after this lady, and we're going to assume that's her mom, still alive but probably not well in any sort of way, which leads me to, we thought about, at least I think he said he thought about the idea, or he played around with the idea of kind of trying to lower her value in some sort of way. Did he do something? Is he plugged in and tapped in like all these other people are that we're finding out? Maybe he's the person who knows of it and how to get rid of people, and actually is the one who was involved at the beginning half of the episode, and that's where that connection really comes. And he did something to kind of poison or harm or do something to the mom to the point that she won't die, but lowers her value, takes her completely out of her position, and also just kind of makes her do nothing. But maybe it was a little bit turned up, maybe like more than he kind of expected, which kind of forces her to be bedridden in these situations. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense to me. We end up finding out Buddy ends up passing away. I love like this visual, especially of him and the way that they kind of make him out to be like he has like this evil plan and everything involved. And he's trying to be able to uncover the stuff that was never actually told or anything to any of the person's kids who ended up passing away. And due to the fact that we have somebody so clever and is able to figure out these mysteries and these things like Mao Mao, he wants them to kind of go in. The connection of understanding what he wants to figure out versus how useful it is to him, or what he plans to do with that information, or what he's trying to do. Is he just trying to test Mao Mao? Is he actually going to use this stuff for his own sort of purposes? Does he actually not care too much? Like, is he just literally trying to look at her and see exactly what she is capable of, what she's doing, and then maybe he can use her in the future things? Or maybe he has to be cautious of her as a result. Like, where he's going leaves me rather interested, and at the same time, Jinshi doesn't really know what he should do in the situation either. We get left there. It's funny how like a couple minute conversation at the end is like so much more impactful and significant to me than like the first like 17 minutes or whatever. But it ends up happening, and that's where we get put at. And I'm interested to kind of see the way that they kind of develop him a little bit more and how relevant and important he is to the back end here of the season. If he's just like 1 or 2 episodes on off like arc thing that we're getting through with, or if he's going to be like relevant, especially going further. Is he going to be like a primary figure within the story later on? Is he just important for the time being? Interested. And because it's fun to introduce smart characters or people who are being presented as ways like this, and whether he's being presented in a way of being like evil or a villain in this that we have to kind of go against or not. He's done in an excellent way that gets you intrigued enough and gets you cautious of the person enough. So I'm very interested to see where that kind of goes. Let me know what you thought, though. Leave a like if you liked, hit the like and subscribe. That you mean a lot to me. Feel free to check out the other videos on the channel. Leave any comments about this episode or series. I'll be back for episode, I don't even know what number we're on, 16, I guess. Next week. I'm going to be a little late. A couple days probably. So probably whatever day this goes up is probably the exact time next week that it'll end up going up as well. Because I'm going to be away for the whole weekend, so I'm not going to have any time to record or do anything. But yeah, hopefully we can catch back up and get back going, and then we'll be on a good schedule, hopefully, to finish out the rest of the series. That's my goal, but no promises there. Yeah, you guys have a good one, though. Peace.